Hi, today we're graphing quadratic functions in vertex form, so a little bit different than the standard form. So we're given the function f of x is equal to 2 times the quantity of x plus 1 squared minus 8. And if you recall that the general formula for this is f of x is equal to a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k, where our vertex then is the opposite sign of h, or negative h, and k value. So if the k value is positive, it'll remain positive. If it's negative, it'll remain negative. It's only the h where we take the opposite sign. So in this case, we take the opposite sign of 1. Our vertex then for this function will be at negative 1 is the x value. The y value, we'll just take this negative 8 and bring it right here. So we've gone ahead and graphed part of this function here so you can see it. We can see here that our negative 1, 8, negative 8 is the vertex, so we label it vertex. And then we also have at x equal negative 1 our axis of symmetry. And we will continue building on this as we look for our zeros next. So if we come over here, look at the zeros of the function. In order to find the zeros, what we do is we first can find the y-intercept, and when we do, we set x equal to 0 and we solve for y. So what I did was I set y equal to 2 times the quantity. I substituted a 0 in for the x, plus 1 squared minus 8. We get 2 times 1, and 1 squared would still be 1, so I left it as 1. Minus 8, and we get as a result y equal negative 6. That will be our y-intercept. Now when we go to the x-intercepts, we set y equal to 0 and solve for x. So we set y equal to 0. We get 2 times the quantity x plus 1 squared minus 8. We bring the 8 over. We add 8 to both sides. We do that arithmetic first. We get 8 equals 2 times the quantity of x plus 1 squared. Divide by 2 now. That gives us 4. And now when we have 4 equals x plus 1 squared, now what we can do is we take the square root of both sides. And when we do that, the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. Remember that when we're squaring something, we're taking the square root of something on both sides, and one side is already squared, the other side must contain a plus or minus. And this also makes sense because when you're doing a parabola, you're graphing a quadratic, you should have 2 zeros if the discriminant allows for it, and in this case it does because our vertex is below the x-axis, so we can see that there. So we get plus or minus 2 equals x plus 1. And if we subtract 1, we get plus or minus 2 minus 1 are the x values. And if I take plus 2 minus 1, I get x is equal to 1. Or negative 2 minus 1, now we get x equals negative 3. So if we shift back over to building the graph, now what we can do is add those points to our graph. We found that our y-intercept is negative 6. Again, the axis of symmetry allows for, if I find one point on one side, I know I'm going to have another point equidistant from the axis of symmetry. So I know a secondary point would be at negative 2, negative 6. And now I can plot our x-intercepts, which was x equals 1. So I put a dot there, and at x equal negative 3. So I'll go ahead and put a dot at negative 3. And then you can see that if we draw a smooth curve like that, then we have our parabola shape. And we have completely graphed the quadratic in vertex form of the quantity f of x is equal to 2 times x plus 1 squared minus 8. And there you have it. All right, hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.